Take advantage of the casuals as we go round by round through ESPN's ADP to identify our favorite 2025 fantasy football values. All this and more. It's a brand new episode of the IBT podcast coming right at you.
I've been going dummy, out of bounds, putting on a clinic. Stick around, carrots in my hardware. KC, caught him in the crosshair. Look at me, been the guy calling Mr. MVP. Keep your ass on the bench by my FTC. Earn my stripes like I fix this league. Your dog's on the turf, my dog's in the street. You can find me somewhere in between. Never a dull moment like a movie scene. About to do the ops like I did this beat. Let them keep talking RG3. Coming to you live. This is the In Between Fantasy Football Podcast.
All right. And welcome into the In Between Fantasy Football Podcast, your destination for both a refreshing and feel-good take on fantasy football and NFL gambling. Today, we take a lap around ESPN's ADP, giving you our favorite values for every single round. I'm your host, Seth Woolcock, and a big week here off screen for me as I'm officially closing on my first house. Wanted to share that with y'all today on the program because it's absolutely crazy to believe that I began this podcast when I was just 21 years old, sitting in my college apartment. Things have certainly changed since then, and I'm blessed to be able to take this next step while creating and producing content for a living. So that doesn't happen without all of y'all supporting IBT, liking, subscribing, commenting, and my second home over at Betting Pros and Fantasy Pros as well. Something that has changed over the years, though, is the addition of this big business light ranch and son of a gun. He's a man who cannot wait to send his kids off to the YMCA every single day this summer. He's Eric Romoff. Eric, thanks for riding shotgun with me, not just tonight, but the past few years, man.
Yeah, man, it's been a fun ride. You mentioned the YMCA summer camp, so we know that it's summer. It means I'm back here sweat lodging it, hot boxing it, getting a little misty for the IBT faithful. And I don't know if this was just something you pulled out of thin air, but the YMCA summer camp program as a parent is elite. It's still rocking like early 90s prices, and they will let you drop your kid off before the sun comes up and pick them up at 9 p.m. They have the best hours option. They are impossible to get into because everyone is onto that clip. But if you can make your way in, bang for your buck, YMCA is undefeated in these camp streets.
How do you get in? Is there an app you have to register after a certain time, or is this just like someone, you float them $20? What's the process here, man?
So there's the right way to do it, which is they open up their registration well in advance, usually around spring break time, and you get in line like a good little citizen, and you hope that your name gets pulled and everything goes well. Or you wait until approximately 5 days before summer vacation, and you call up the camp director with some mostly fabricated sob story about why your kiddos need to get in for next week or the third week or whatever it might be. And look, I'd say I'm probably getting through about a third of the time with that, right? So that's enough to get me in the Hall of Fame.
Batting .333. That's our guy, Eric Romoff. We appreciate hanging out with us tonight, man. Also linking up with us is a man who is currently on the beautiful shores of Lake Erie. He's our entertainment and football betting pundit here at IBT. He's Boston's boy, Steve Lawson. Steve, we did this exercise last year. You ready to run it back here in 2025, man?
Yeah, I always am, and I'm always ready to drop my takes. I am proud of the ones that I've had, but more proud of the ones that I'm about to have. As far as childcare goes, though, it is so nice to not have to worry about that because it sounds kind of like the Hunger Games out there. May the odds be ever in your favor, parents, that your child gets called for the reaping, though. What awful parents, though, to think that they're like, please, God, get my kids off my hands. Sometimes I just find not having them at all is a bit easier. You just have your kids to the Hunger Games. That's mean. I just finished Sunrise on the Reapings and sobbed unbelievably during it, so it was sad.
Yeah, good analogy there. I thought about, I kind of wanted to see the new one. I was like, maybe I should revisit the Hunger Games. I was like, no, that's a lot to sit through. That's a lot to sit through for me.
No. It's good. It's good. I like it. I liked the newest. I'll tell you what, the book Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is my favorite in the series of all the books in the Hunger Games.
Okay. All right. Well, rejoining the program, also a bookworm. First time we've seen this guy in a few weeks as he officially moved from one Pittsburgh neighborhood to another. That's our producer who's a Yinzer, a ginger, and a former IUP Crimson Hawk. He's Kyle Scott. Kyle, how's it out there in the beautiful neighborhood of Millville, man?
It is beautiful out here in Pittsburgh. I hate to break it to you, Seth. I'm not in Millvale. I am in the heart of the city. I'm out here in Squirrel Hill.
Oh,
Living it up, city living, out here in the Burg. It's beautiful. It's great. It's a great time.
well, I'm glad to hear that. I think I got some bad information from Elliot. Then I thought you were moving to Millville, and I had this whole little rant I wanted to go on about Millville because great little place I spent a day in. Probably the nicest people on earth over there. Unfortunately, you're not one of the Millvillians, though.
No, not one of the Millvillians. I'm a Squirrel Hillite.
Okay.
Or something.
Liliite.
Well, I'm glad to have you back, man. The program, the needle only moves when you're on it, so we appreciate you. As noted tonight on the show, we're going back in the day. We're revisiting last year's ESPN values we had and revealing 2025s. We also got a little off the top for you. That's our Cut One game that we'll round out the program with. As always, before we get going, shout out to the IBT family who's tuning in tonight. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy this type of content. Also, subscribe to the channel if you're new. If you want to be a part of our story, we greatly appreciate it. And it looks like we already got some friends riding with us, including Anthony asking, does Dobbins going to the Broncos change anything for RJ Harvey? Yeah, I think a little bit. I think a little bit for sure. I think we'll definitely probably break that down on a future episode of kind of what some of these late free agent signings mean. But Anthony, we appreciate you signing around with us. And I took RJ Harvey in our last mock draft. I'm definitely still high on him, but yeah, definitely complicates things a little bit more. And then we got Albert hanging out with us as well, saying good evening, IBT. Good evening, Albert. We appreciate you hanging out with us. And Ben saying hi and congratulations. Thank you. Thank you, Ben. I appreciate it. Exciting time. Moving, not fun, though, guys. So once again, reminded, moving, maybe the worst part of life. Honestly, not
This
great.
is the last time, I'll tell you this, Seth, as far as life advice goes, this is the last time you should ever, if you have asked your friends to help you move, after this moment, they are too old to be helping people move furniture. This is your first and last time. This is it.
Yeah, I've also moved about 7 in the last 10 years. So, like, I've really I belabored the point of asking friends to help me move.
I would have told you no.
Yeah, so this is the last go around with that as well.
I told you no.
Guys, be sure to check out the website for some fantastic written content. And while you're there on the site, consider getting yourself a ticket to Draft Night Out. That's our live fantasy football draft at the Fantasy Football Expo in Canton, Ohio this August. If you want to come draft with us and 200 plus of our closest fantasy football friends, this is the event for you. We'll have a shot wheel spinning. Some songs will be sung. We'll also have some giveaways going off and everything in between. The link to that is in the episode description. Make sure you're checking it out. And boys, let's go ahead and turn back the clock a little bit with Back in the Day.
They ain't make them like this way back in the day. Took a shot, couldn't miss way back in the day. Couldn't predict how it could all change. Don't you ever forget how far we came. How far we came. Never forget how far we came. How far we came. Remember how it was way back in the day.
So we're going back in the day. We're digging up last year's favorite values and sharing this year's. I thought this was a great time to do this and revisit this topic now because my home league just had our annual lottery for draft position. I got the 4 spot, which I did not hate at all, I thought. But at the same time, I started looking at this ESPN ADP because that's a platform my friends still want to use for whatever reason. And man, is it wonky right now compared to the best ball streets, compared to what we're seeing in ECR. So we'll break down last year's values, go through round by round here, and release this season's as well. Starting with last year's in round 1, we had Breece Hall, not the best pick after all. Derrick Henry in round 2. I think that was you, Steve. That was a great call from you. We had our guy Will, the intern, on the program as well. He went Drake London in the 3rd, still wide receiver 4 overall, so good looks for him there. DeVonta Smith in round 4. Tank Dell in round 5. Tough to tell what that would have been. Round 6, Jonathan Brooks. I was way too high on him. Chris Godwin in round 7. I believe that was another one of yours, Steve. So you were swinging a hot bat. Raheem Mostert in round 8. And Jaxon Smith-Njigba in round 9. Jane Daniels in round 10. Brian Thomas Jr. in round 11. So 3 straight absolute missiles there. Jaxon, Smith-Njigba, JSN, Daniels, and some BTJ. And we rounded out with Jared Goff in round 12. Steve, if you just had a draft of our best values in each round, I mean, you were absolutely buzzing.
Yeah, you were happy, right? Because your middle rounds got a little dicey. But a lot of that's from injury, right? Tank Dell injured, Jonathan Brooks never bounced back from the injury, Chris Godwin injury, right? So a lot of these picks were injury based, but then you got those late round picks. You probably won your league if you followed our draft last year.
Yeah, honestly, Eric, I would say if there's one big takeaway from me, it was kind of over investing in the middle rounds with those running backs. Took Mostert in that 8th round. I was also high on Jonathan Brooks, who ultimately came back a lot later than we thought, suffered another untimely ACL, but probably still a reach in the round 6 there.
Yeah, that's definitely the glaring issue with this approach, and it's why there's so much chatter about this sort of running back dead zone, right? You get into the middle rounds and you're really rolling the dice, right? And obviously this wasn't comprised as an end-to-end draft. We weren't drafting a singular team with all of these players. But we definitely went a little bit with the bully running back approach to kick this one off. Didn't play out exactly the way that we would have drafted it up, but more than happy to walk out of the first 2 rounds with Breece Hall and Derrick Henry as our tandem.
Absolutely.
And yeah, if nothing else, we underscore the explosive upside of going with some young options there in the late rounds. And like we said, if you finished out your draft with even 2 of the 3 names that we rattled down here, you were a competitive team and you were probably in the championship.
Let's go ahead. Let's turn the page to 2025. And Eric, I'm throwing it over to you for round number 1. What is the best value currently in ESPN ADP for those top 12 picks?
Yeah, so it's kind of a farce to say things like value in the first round, right?
Yeah.
Because there's really nowhere else for these guys to go. Functionally speaking, though, you have to look at where there's a bit of a gap between ESPN and ECR. And for me, the one that jumps out is Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's number 6 in ECR overall. But practically, I'm really just kind of putting myself in the position of, if I'm in the 10 spot in the first round and Amon-Ra is sitting there as I'm about to make my selection, I am elated, right? This is a guy that has been an absolute volume monster. Last year included 142 targets, 164 the year before, 146 in the year before that. And we are looking at another year in the Detroit offense where he is going to remain the focal point. So for me, a lot of my thesis in the early rounds is to really build a nice foundation of volume, and getting Amon-Ra at the end of the first round would be a delight.
2 follow-ups on that, Eric. 1, does the recent injury news of ARSB concern you at all? And does the removal of Ben Johnson at OC on the sticks concern you at all either?
More concerned about the Ben Johnson departure than I am about the injury, right? This is the part of the year where, we'll see these things crop up. Obviously it's hard to decipher the coach speak, but it doesn't seem like there is a ton of concern about long-term impact from this injury. Ben Johnson heading out the door is a legitimate question, but I don't think that they're just going to be stuck kind of back in the starting gates, right? They bring in a new OC that has familiarity with Coach Campbell, with a similar scheme and system to that which Johnson ran. Might not be quite as creative as we saw with Coach Johnson, but I think if nothing else, this OC is going to come in and they're going to know exactly where their bread is buttered and how this team is built to operate, right? The component parts on this roster really dictate how they approach the offensive side of the ball. So I think it's going to be pretty much a flat line in that regard.
Okay. Steve, I think the only big issue I have with the ESPN ADP in this first round is like the glaring, shining question mark at number 8 overall, Christian McCaffrey. I mean, we were getting used to him being a mid-second round pick when we did our expert and fan mock a couple of weeks ago. And now that he's 8 overall in ESPN ADP, I mean, that just screams casuals to me, right? Because there's just so much risk baked into CMC right now to go over, overall at 8. So do you have any concerns with that and any other issues with this first round that ESPN's laying out compared to what we've seen from Sleeper and from what we've seen at ECR and in Best Ball Streets as well?
Yeah, I mean, I know people love to point at ESPN and be like casual, 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 and like that's fine. I don't know if I would go so far as to say it's for casuals to use ESPN because, like you said, Seth, your league uses it,
Oh
my
yeah,
home league uses it. Like, I think a lot of people
it's a
use
great
ESPN.
platform.
It's a great platform. It's simple. I think we're seeing CMC's ADP bump up because of a lot of praise he's getting from Kyle Shanahan. He's like, oh, he looks better. He looks healthy. Like everything you want him to be able to do, he can do. He got kind of glazed up for the last like week and a half, 2 weeks. So that probably contributed just as much to the ADP as anything else.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, 1.1 difference in the last 7 days in his ADP, so he definitely has moved up. 19 in ECR though from our friends over at Fantasy Pros, so just feels like
I will say, like, as far as professionals, which we can call ourselves professionals if we want, which is fine. We do this a lot. We tend to be overcautious, right? Like,
yeah, true.
we do tend to err on the side of caution, where more casual players kind of are like, you know what, we're doing this for fun. Let's kind of send caution to the wind, right? Yeah. So we are overly cautious as a group.
Steve, I'm sending it back to you in the second round here. It's a guy for the Philadelphia Eagles, which I actually think we have the wrong player on the thumbnail. It is not AJ.
De'Ami Brown. That's De'Ami Brown.
That's De'Ami Brown, yeah.
Kyle, looks like you got hoodwinked on the internet a little bit when you were putting this together. That is not AJ Brown, but that is De'Ami Brown. Just
that's
so
my favorite. I hope every
aware,
site
brother,
switches out AJ Brown's picture for De'Ami Brown. I did go with AJ Brown, not De'Ami Brown. So the name is correct. The picture is not. Yeah, so AJ Brown is another victim of offensive coordinator leaving and his ADP sliding. I normally do not worry too much about superstar players when their coordinators leave. That's more of an issue for the role players around them. So for DeVonta Smith, I'm a little more worried for tight end positions, whoever that may be going forward, because I know we're hearing a lot of rumors that maybe Kyle Pitts could be on the move and stuff like that. I would be more concerned about the role players, guys like Saquon or AJ Brown. Not as worried about Kellen Moore leaving for the Saints. I am in on AJ Brown at pick 17 right now. That seems awfully late for a guy who's a perennial top 10 wide receiver with top 5 upside.
Yeah, it's 4 spots below the ECR currently, so a little bit of a value there on AJ Brown, and he's definitely one of those guys towards the end of the second round where if I went running back early, he is someone I would love to grab as my wide receiver 1. I don't think he has the, traditional wide receiver 1 overall upside just because he is in an Eagles offense. It's going to be a little bit more run heavy, but I definitely have some more thoughts on this offense overall later on. Eric, do you like AJ Brown in the mid-second round here over at ESPN?
I do. Yeah, I like this value on Brown in particular. I agree with Steve's point overall in terms of how he fits into a build generally, but also this round is a mess in terms of ADP. Like I know that you're trying to give some air cover to ESPN that it's not just for casuals, but you run picks 12 through 24, and all of a sudden we're talking about Brock Bowers, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, Trey McBride narrowly on the other side of this round. Like we're getting a lot of onesie positions all stuffed into this round. So I mean, the options from my perspective are relatively limited in terms of guys to choose from with this ADP, and AJ Brown would be who got my nomination of this lot.
3 quarterbacks in round 2 of ESPN ADP. I think that's my biggest qualm too. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels. Yeah, so I'm definitely with you there. And what a professional, Kyle Scott. So not only did he not blame the internet for giving him the wrong results for De'Ami Brown, but then he goes and actually finds a picture live on air of AJ Brown, replaces it. So, gentlemen, I think we just need a little bit of a round of applause for some Kyle Scott action behind the scenes. We need you back, buddy. Need you back. Kyle,
I'll go a step further. Dude was taking full on accountability in the show chat. Just hand up. Missed this one and went out there and did it live. You love to see it.
What's wrong, Steve? Do you hate Kyle or something? You didn't clap for him.
Yeah, he made me do an entire bit on AJ Brown with De'Ami Brown's picture up. Made me look like an idiot. Made it look like I took De'Ami Brown in the second round.
I mean,
there's words I want to say, but we got to be PG.
Yeah. So let's move forward here. And it's pretty clear who my third round value was after calling this guy out as a league winner heading into week 10 last year and trading for him in my league of record. It's Lad McConkey, who's coming off a rookie season where he finishes the wide receiver 12 overall in 16 games. He missed one game late in the season. Also, wide receiver 16 in points per game with a minimum of 9 games played. I'm not counting Stephon Diggs. I'm not counting Rashee Rice, those guys who only played a couple games. And what I love about Lad is the consistency late in the season, where he had double-digit points in 8 of his last 9 contests. Also, he was pretty good all season in that consistency department. He only left you hanging really once all year with one game under 7 full-point PPR points, 4.6 in week 2. Pretty understandable from a rookie. Season totals finished with 112 targets, 82 receptions, nearly 1,150 yards, the 9th most in the league, and 7 touchdowns. He's 17 in Fantasy Pros ECR, where he's been going in most like all best ball drafts, late second round, mid second round sometimes. So you're getting a round discount on ESPN, largely because running backs and quarterbacks, as we mentioned, are being really pushed up much higher on ESPN on this platform. So the efficiency for Lad, it was off the charts last year. Top 8 in both yards per route run, yards per target, top 5 in contested catch rate, 6 in expected points added, 4th in fantasy points per target versus man coverage. That was all on a team that was bottom 5 in passing attempts. So I think after getting waxed by Houston in that wild card round, and based on how GM Joe Horitz and also Jim Harbaugh and the boys attacked this draft, I think they know they got to be more dynamic on the offense. They got to air it out a little bit with Justin Herbert, one of the best gunslingers in the league. So I think the addition of Trey Harris and Omarion Hampton will actually kind of help take some of the pressure off of Lad. It won't only take a little bit of pressure off him, but I also don't think it's going to eat into that volume at all as well, even if the passing pie doesn't get a ton bigger. Lad, to me, has top 6 upside at the wide receiver position and a floor of a steady wide receiver 2. So I love getting him here, Eric, in the middle of round 3.
Yeah, he's someone that I'm happily and willingly drafting like around the 1-2 turn. If I'm getting him off the board at like
Wow,
pick 15,
okay.
pick
Yeah.
17, I am A-okay with that. Again, some of this is philosophical in nature. I love volume, and I think that volume is going to carry over from year 1 to year number 2. But the things that he was able to do with that volume are really what's impressive, right? Like in terms of his short area quickness, his ability to create separation and to create yards after the catch is elite. So you're talking about a guy that, yes, Trey Harris will be around, but will still be the center of gravity in terms of target volume in this offense. And he and several other guys are the diamonds in the rough of this ESPN ADP in the third round.
Yeah.
The third round is juiced to the gills with guys that I am more than happy to take in the second round. So if you're playing on ESPN, you will make your hay in this third round.
Steve, I want to kind of use you as the litmus test here in the third round. I'm just going to yell out a couple different names. Tell me Lad or them, one word. Lad or T. Higgins?
Higgins.
Okay. Lad or James Cook?
Cook.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I'm Lad on both those. You too, Eric?
Yeah, same.
Drake London?
Lad.
Okay.
Well,
That's
anyone over Drake London for Steve.
Yeah. What about Trey McBride?
Give me Lad.
Okay. See, so like even Steve, Steve's a sharp player, he's a little bit lower on Lad than I think both of you and I are, Eric. So good to kind of see those difference in opinions there. Let's go ahead and move to round 4. It's one of my favorite players, guys. Someone that I called out last year in all the way down in round 9 as one of my favorite values. He was one of my all-in picks. Eric, go ahead, introduce your favorite value of round 4, who I thought for a minute there's no way he was in round 4. I actually tried to claim him as my round 3 value originally until you pointed out, like, this guy's in round 4 of ESPN. Crazy.
Yeah, it's absolutely wild. I thought for a moment about not taking him because he was my selection in the IBT mock draft a few shows ago in the third round, and we were all elated about this idea, right? So I didn't necessarily want to double back and give an analysis as to why he's an even better pick in the 4th round, but it's just so glaring, right? We talk about JSN being the focal point of this offense, and he finished in large part because he was able to play a full slate of 17 games as a wide receiver 9 in total fantasy points last year. But you look at his per game averages, and especially down the stretch run from week number 9 and on, he was wide receiver 9 in points per game. He actually had a couple of stinkers there at the very end of the season when things were looking bleak for the Seahawks, week 17 and week 18. So if you narrow that range, week 9 to week 16, when you are in the heart of your fantasy football playoff run, JSN was wide receiver number 5. He had a 30 burger in there. He had a 20 spot in there. He definitely has the ability to go out there and perform like an elite option at this position. And now we've got Clint Kubiak coming in. We know exactly what he loves to do. He loves to run a ton of 2 receiver sets. He loves to funnel all of his target volume to 1 or 2 guys. In this case, it's clearly going to be JSN over the husk of Cooper Kupp. So, while last year was a phenomenal campaign for JSN, I think we actually have yet to see his full potential unlocked.
Are you muted?
And I would say in the Kubiak system as well, Eric, that I would probably almost prefer Sam Darnold to Geno Smith in the Ryan Grubb system. And I liked Geno Smith, and I liked Ryan Grubb. I actually think Ryan Grubb kind of fell on the sword a little bit here. But at the same time, yeah, I think it's just wheels up here for JSN. A couple other names that are kind of going around him. I think Breece Hall could have been in this conversation for great value in the 4th round. Love him there. Rasheed Rice, I think we would all say that's maybe a bit too rich. Omarion Hampton in this 4th round. Mike Evans. So kind of some guys I honestly have a little bit of question marks, but no doubt about it here, Steve. It's wheels up for JSN.
I got to be the contrarian again. I'm sorry. I'm just not all in on JSN like
in
you
round
guys are.
4, he's going to round 2 in some format.
You know what? I don't love the situation. I just don't. This is where a new coordinator scares me, and a new quarterback, and all the stuff that's going on with the offensive line being absolutely atrocious. It depends on what he gets, right? I mean, there's a world where Sam Darnold doesn't finish the year as the starter, and then you're counting on Jalen Milroe to give you what you need out of JSN.
Or Drew Lock.
Or I don't like that either. That's worse. It's a scary situation up in the Pacific Northwest for JSN right now. I may come to eat these words, but I would play this hyper cautiously. I would take Breece Hall happily over JSN in the 4th round.
I understand the trepidatious mindset a little bit. I'm still full in, man. I think it could be worse. I think things would have to go incredibly wrong for Sam Darnold not to see the end of this season with the amount of money he was just paid. Let's go ahead though. Let's move on to round 5, where Steve, you're interested in someone for the Kansas City Chiefs.
I am, and it was only because this round was like a dead zone for players. It was awful looking. It was just like something happened in the 5th round on ESPN, and it's atrocious. I am happy though to report that the picture is correct. I was half expecting Charles Xavier, Professor X, to pop up, because Kyle's just picking one part of a name and sticking someone on there. So I could have been looking at Patrick Stewart for all I knew. Xavier Worthy to me. With Rasheed Rice going down last year, he was able to become a bigger part of this offense much, much quicker than he would have. Otherwise, we know players usually get eased in a bit more to like a Kansas City offense under Andy Reid. He was the guy. And he showed that he actually could handle it down the stretch. He was pretty good, and he's a good field stretcher. He's really fast. But he's also kind of in that Tyreek Hill build where he takes those screen passes really far. He's good with the ball in his hands, just an elusive talent overall. I know Hollywood Brown is back, and I know Rasheed Rice is back, but I do think that if somebody's going to be that boomer kind of flex that you want, and the running backs are gone, and it's not looking too hot for you because now everyone's starting to do this tight end run that'll probably happen in the 5th round, or quarterbacks, you can grab yourself another solid wide receiver, Nick Xavier Worthy, and that's where I would go.
I don't hate Worthy here. I like him at his ADP more than I do Rice theirs. And like Eric, it's just tough for me because I was all in on the Chiefs pass catchers last year. I had a bunch of all 3 of these guys, if you include Travis Kelce. But now, like, I'm a little bit, I don't know what the word is. I don't know if it's like I'm just burnt out of this offense or what it is. But now you got Jalen Royals here. You got a full season of Marquise Hollywood Brown. So I just worry that it might be tough to pick week to week unless someone is in that former Rashid Rice role, which became Worthy's down the stretch. So I just don't know who's going to have that role and if one person will have that role. So I'm a little mixed on Worthy. I think I'd rather have guys like DK Metcalf, Quinshon Judkins, even Travis Hunter in this range.
Yeah. This is the part where ADP really starts to get ugly on ESPN. In terms of your question about the Kansas City pass catchers, I believe the person most likely to play the Rashee Rice role would be Rashee Rice, who's not going to be suspended this year. He's going to play every game, assuming that he stays healthy.
This guy's slippery from the law, man. He's slippery from the law.
It's not even slippery from the law. It's just the NFL has been super clear. Like when it comes to legal matters, they're not going to suspend or make any ruling until the process is played out. And his process continues to get kicked down the road. So
do we have a date for his next court appearance?
I don't think we have anything that's definitive at this point. I think we're still looking a good way down the road. So he will be suspended for breaking the law in this regard. I just don't think it's going to be in 2025. I'm happy with Rashee Rice in the 4th round, by the way. That was the other name I was considering next to JSN.
Yeah.
I mean, some of his advanced stats are insane, off the charts, right? And he was on pace for a prolific season last year before injury bit. Obviously, that can happen at any point. But yeah, I would think that Rashee Rice would be more likely to play the Rashee Rice role than Xavier Worthy.
Yeah, I guess that's why I just don't know, because Worthy played it very respectively down the line, and good to know about the legal situation that probably not going to happen this year once again. We got Drew. Is that Drew, the guy who does legal updates for
Drew Davenport?
Yeah, I only know him from that, and also good gambler. That guy's a good gambler. I've seen his gambling winnings. I've talked with him about those over at the expo. So make sure you're following him on Twitter for those updates. But let's go ahead, boys. Let's move into round 6. Give me DeVonta Smith. It wasn't my worst call last year with calling out Smith as a value in round 4, but it certainly wasn't great. He finished as a wide receiver, 15 in points per game, minimum of 10 games played, of course, and it definitely wasn't the season I think we all expected for the 2020 Heisman Trophy winner. He hit career lows in targets with 89, yards 833. And I think a big part of that was that opposing teams could just not stop Saquon Barkley. And Kellen Moore knew this, and he stuck with what was working. He was going for the record in rushing attempts in a season. Jalen Hurts passing attempts, so much so they dipped from his previous season low by 71 attempts, 4.7 attempts per game. So we're taking 5 attempts off Hurts's passing attempts per contest last year. But I think with the Eagles both losing Kellen Moore and also some pieces on this defense, Josh Sweat, Bryce Huff is now a San Francisco 49ers, Milton Williams up there with Steve in Boston. They might be passing a little bit more. I don't think that defense will be as dominating. And with Smith still having a down year, he was still very much efficient as a wide receiver, 8th in dominator rating, 36%, 11th in explosive rating, 8th in expected points added, also 10th in quarterback rating per target. So the Eagles would be silly to go away from him. I know that there are a lot of people who would argue that, hey, DeVonta Smith is best and only good when A.J. Brown or Dallas Goedert is gone. But I would argue that this kind of feels like going to the grocery store, your favorite frozen pizza's on sale. It might not be like the meal you're inviting a pretty lady over for, but it gets the job done in an ADP of 62 overall, wide receiver 27, 15 spots below ECR. I'm into it, Steve. It's like a little Tony's Pizza there, a little Red Baron action.
Oh, man, speak for yourself. I invited many a lady over for a frozen pizza. And then, yeah, no men, though. The boys got the good food. No, I like DeVonta Smith. DeVonta Smith's biggest problem is not talent. It's that he's not a diva. DeVonta Smith doesn't know how to be a diva, and to dominate targets in the NFL, you need to be one, right? And his teammate, A.J. Brown, knows how to be a diva a bit, right? We've seen him get into those screaming matches with Jalen Hurts, with the coaches, when he's not getting the targets that he wants. He's going to make it known, right? So A.J. Brown's always going to eat. DeVonta Smith, if he wants to bump back into those 1,000 yards, 1,100 yards kind of situation, he needs to be a bit more of a diva. Hopefully we see that happen, because it's not a talent issue, right? We heard all the advanced stats, but the eye test tells you all you need to know. DeVonta Smith is a stud wide receiver at the NFL level. He dominates at every level of the field. Short, intermediate, long, doesn't matter. DeVonta Smith is as good as it gets, pretty much route running wise. I love this in round 6, because I just don't believe you can keep this talent down for long.
This is like the overcorrection of the market, because
It absolutely is.
The Eagles receivers both a little bit of a value here, because we just saw such a dominant running attack in the great city of brotherly love here last season. So yeah, I think that balances out. I think both Eagles wide receivers will be a bit more of a value this season. Let's go to round number 7, Eric, where we've talked a ton about rookie running backs, how much we love them in a redraft, yet our first favorite value round by round at ESPN comes by way of you in the 7th round. Who you got?
Yeah, Kaleb Johnson once again donning the black and gold, this time for the Pittsburgh Steelers instead of his beloved Iowa Hawkeyes. Feels like a real smash selection here in the 7th round. He's a player that I will be targeting a lot on either my hero or zero running back build, because you're talking about a guy that steps into a backfield that has one of the highest total of vacated carries in all of the NFL, and is essentially, he's kind of like a hybrid between Najee Harris and Le'Veon Bell, right? He's got the size and the thumper mentality to break tackles and to eat a ton of volume like we saw with Najee, but he's actually a really fluid zone running system type of back, and that's exactly what Arthur Smith's like to run. You know, he peed down his leg in terms of his measurables at the combine. So I think that is what is dragging down his draft stock overall. But if you flip on the tape from when he was at Iowa, you see plenty of plays where he's pulling away from guys. There are games where he was clocked at 20, 21 miles per hour on GPS. His contact balance is really strong. His stiff arm is really strong. Like, he's much more of a fluid runner that just kind of makes those subtle little angular changes when he gets into the second level that allows him to break away those big runs. And he's thought of as more, again, as like a between the 20s type back. But honestly, I think he can catch a little bit more than we're giving him credit for as well. So we could be looking at a situation where, you know, he is one of the top running backs in terms of just opportunity and volume of carries and touches this year. And getting that type of player in the 7th round is phenomenal.
I have so many thoughts on this Pittsburgh backfield, especially now that Aaron Rodgers officially in the mix out there in the city of Bridges. I'll touch on that here in just a couple more rounds. But Steve, I'm going to throw it over to you for round number 8, heading out to the, what is the state of Colorado? Are they
Mile High?
Well, that's the city, though.
The Rocky Mountain State.
The Rocky. Yeah, I wanted to say like the Stone State, but I guess I was a little disrespectful. Like the. Yeah. Oh, okay. Go ahead, Steve. I'll think of something better.
Great. While you work on your comedy routine, I'll tell people about the right now tight end 3 in my projections, Evan Engram, out in Denver, just behind Brock Bowers and Trey McBride. Someone needed to fill in the gap for the next best tight end, and I think that's Evan Engram. This was a guy that Denver targeted heavily in free agency, and Sean Payton is, if nothing else, he is methodical in what he does. And when he makes a plan to go get a player, he's going to execute that plan, right? He wanted Evan Engram. He wanted a guy to move the ball. He wanted a guy that could do a lot of different things, be a target hog. I wouldn't be surprised if we once again see, if Evan Engram plays every game this season, if he goes over 100 receptions this season in that Denver offense, competing really only with Cortland Sutton for targets. And there's nothing else that's really scaring me off of him. And Cortland Sutton certainly isn't scaring me off it either. Evan Engram is an elite tight end. That's what we've had to realize over the last few years, is he is an elite talent. When healthy, but still, you could throw that caveat on a lot of guys, George Kittle, Mark Andrews, the whole 9, right? There's a lot of guys who can have that umbrella. Evan Engram is a reception monster, and he's a yards after the catch guy, which we know Sean Payton loves. And those middle of the field targets are super, super valuable in a Sean Payton offense. Give me Evan Engram all day long in the 8th round, and I'm not hesitating.
The interesting thing about Evan Engram is that everyone thought this team was going to go running back in the draft, the betting markets, us, like really everyone, I feel like. And they were one of the teams that seemed to be sniffing around to move up to potentially go get someone like Colston Loveland. So they want to do things with the tight end. I do think Evan Engram will have 1 year here where he will just pop with Denver and has top 5 tight end upside. So 88 overall, I still would rather wait and just take some shots on some rookie tight ends, potentially one that we'll talk about later on the program. But I don't mind Evan Engram here at all. And you are right, Steve. It wasn't too long ago. We're only a little over 16 months removed from him coming off a season where he was setting records for tight end receptions. So all-time type of stuff. So I agree with you. I really am excited to see what he can do in this Sean Payton offense. For round number 9, speaking of teams who like to run the ball, give me the starting running back for a Pittsburgh Steelers team that ran the ball the 4th most times last season, 31 times per game. Jaylen Warren going off the board at 99 overall. Again, this is 12 spots, a full round below his Fantasy Pros ECR. And while I do think that rookie Kaleb Johnson, as Eric alluded to, coming out of Iowa, is eventually going to take the larger share of at least the rushing attempts, I still think Warren could easily break his career best 149 carries. That's only 8.8 per game. So I think even if Warren can get to 11 carries per game and still leave 16, 17 for Johnson, that he's looking at 187 carries if paced out for 17 games. That isn't too far behind the rushing opportunity that we saw from a guy like Austin Eckler once Melvin Gordon left the Chargers. And considering that Iowa's leading wide receiver only had 35 receptions, I really have no clue what kind of pass catcher Kaleb Johnson is. He could be really good. He could be mid. I'm not sure. But I do know one thing. The Aaron Rodgers is going to want the veteran that is one of the best pass blocking running backs in the league out there that he can trust to roll into war with. And honestly, I think Aaron Rodgers is going to love Jaylen Warren's scrappy, undrafted mentality, kind of similar to that of Allen Lazard. And we've already seen that the Steelers are willing to let number 12 kind of have his way here. So not only is Johnson going ahead of Warren, which I'm okay with, but so are running backs I trust way less, like Javonte Williams, Ramondre Stevenson, both Giants running backs, Cam Scatterbo and Tyrone Tracy. So I love getting Warren here on the edge of triple-digit picks. Eric, are you out on Warren because you're so in on Kaleb Johnson, or is this hey, I like both Steelers running backs where they're going for different reasons?
I guess I'm a little closer to the latter, right? I think they're both interesting. A lot of that has to do with just the volume that we've seen Arthur Smith feed to his running backs. And I think we're going to see them both get a decent amount of work overall. This is the only context where I would consider Jaylen Warren, where he's going a round and a half earlier. Mm-hmm. He is completely crossed off the board for me.
Okay.
I don't know in what world you're making a case that a guy getting 11 carries a game to his teammates 18 carries a game is the starting running back. But it's not a world that I live in, right? And it's certainly not a world that I think the Pittsburgh Steelers live in, right? This is a team that they had Jaylen Warren on their roster, available to be as big of a workhorse and bell cow as they saw fit. And they instead decided to go out and spend their only day 2 pick to bring in Kaleb Johnson, who is essentially a turnkey perfect fit for what their offensive coordinator is trying to do. So sure, there may be weeks early on in the season where it's closer to an even split, but I tend to think we're going to see Jaylen Warren pretty quickly take a back seat, much more of a best ball target for me. I think he'll still have some of those explosive plays that we like to see out of him, but I think it's going to be hard to get week over week production from him.
I think he's the starter because I think he will be the starter all season, even if we're seeing Kaleb Johnson take more of the snaps. That's just
You
Steelers...
mean he's going to be the guy that takes the first snap of the game?
Yes,
starter?
yes.
How many fantasy points does that get you?
Hey, you get the run out song in Pittsburgh. You got people waving terrible towel. Yeah,
he gets to carry the American flag with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, let's go.
We also aren't taking into account that Pittsburgh's going to be awful on offense this year, so none of them may be valuable at all.
Dude, you can't be much more mid than they've been.
You can, and you will with a 42-year-old quarterback who doesn't want to be there.
Well, I think he wants to be there as much as Russell Wilson did last season. So I'm all right with it. It's again, I would rather have just punted the season as a Steelers fan, but hey, we'll rock and roll with the ayahuasca chief for 1 year. Eric, round us out here. Round number 10. Who do you got? Someone I mentioned earlier in the program.
Yeah, this is the point of my drafts where I like to start looking at onesie positions like tight end and like quarterback. In this case, I went with tight end, that being Colston Loveland, currently the highest draft capital tight end in the 2025 class. And at that position in particular, it goes a long way in terms of projecting their productivity in year one and in the near and immediate term. But also Colston Loveland is hand selected by new head coach Ben Johnson, who has a pretty good track record of investing early draft capital in tight ends and making them a thing in these fantasy streets. In terms of his profile, it is absolutely phenomenal. Over his last 2 years at Michigan, he accounted for roughly 30% of all of their receiving production. You look at some of his underlying stats, 2.2 yards per route run is higher than the careers of, at least the collegiate careers of, Trey McBride, Sam Laporta, TJ Hawkinson, right? So absolutely prolific offensive weapon in terms of his capability there as a pass catcher. And I think he plugs right into the system and becomes a pretty big focal point. So, he could very well become a bit more of the kind of pedestrian middle of the road tight end, but spending a 10th round pick on him for him to be, kind of this average guy that is going to be, one of 15 tight ends getting you 6 points a week is really no downside, right? If he truly flames out, you can replace him easily. I think his floor is still higher than that tight end middle class, and his ceiling is phenomenal.
Well, and look, man, we're seeing videos come out on social media right now. DJ Moore getting just yelled at practice, it seems like, all the time by Ben Johnson. Doesn't seem to be great vibes there between DJM and the new head coach of the Bears. So someone's going to get left out of this offense. I don't think Caleb Williams can support all of it. My money's not on the 10th overall pick, though, being the guy who gets left out. So I'm willing to take this shot at 112 overall every single time. Love this value that you're getting there, Eric. I think that's a great call out. If we went a little bit deeper, Tyler Warren would be on that list for me too, boys. But that's a story for another show or previous shows. You can go back and check those out. Eric still got a case of Busch Light Apple's only here for like another month or so. So if you want to get me Busch Light Apple for our beer bet that we had previously,
I'll pay it off for the Poconos.
Yeah. Hey. Oh, there you go. Yeah. Kyle also in the back end saying the Centennial State for Colorado. Yeah, that is a nickname. Colorful Colorado. The internet's telling me
I went down a rabbit hole. Do you know that the Colorado state tree is the blue spruce?
No.
And that their state reptile is the western painted turtle. I was trying to find this slogan, and I found all kinds of other delightful factoids.
I'm sure you did. And we got one more factoid for you coming in our next segment as we round out the show with a little off the top.
Just a little off the top. Ain't talking about a fade or a crop. Steady hand, know when to stop. Just a little off the top. Whoa, easy now.
It's our cut one game a little off the top, and we're cutting one former fantasy football star from the College Football Hall of Fame. Earlier this month, the College Football Hall of Fame announced their 2026 ballot, which included some fantasy football legends. I want you to cut one of the following from making the College Football Hall of Fame, starting with Marvin Harrison. He was from Syracuse, led the Big East in receiving in 1995, was top 10 in touchdowns in 3 straight seasons. There's also Cam Newton of Auburn. After a tough start to his college career, he ended up leading Division I football for a few years. Cam Newton then made his way to Auburn in 2010 and would not only win the Heisman Trophy, but to win the Tigers their first national championship in nearly 2 decades. Mark Ingram of Alabama, also on the College Football Hall of Fame ballot this season. Ingram had a storybook 2009 season where he not only led the SEC in rushing with nearly 1,700 yards, but 20 total touchdowns, would go on to win the Heisman Trophy and secure Alabama their first natty since 1992. And there's Robert Griffin III of Baylor. A solid career at Baylor, was capped off with a milestone season, which included 47 total touchdowns, finishing second in the country in total touchdowns responsible for. He did go on to win the Heisman Trophy that year, but was never able to climb the mountaintop, even in his own conference. So, Steve, with this being said, Robert Griffin III, Mark Ingram, Cam Newton, and Marvin Harrison, looking at their college resume alone, who are you cutting from making the CFB Hall of Fame?
Yeah, this is a tough one. I want to take just one moment to let both of you know, though, a little fun trivia fact. A factoid is not, in fact, a fact. It is a thing that sounds like a fact, could be a fact, but is not, in fact, a fact. But a fact that I will give you is that Mark Ingram is the guy who should be left off of the College Football Hall of Fame ballot of these four. He is the one who is the least memorable of all of them. Cam Newton is the number one by far. Follow that up with RG3, whose season was legendary as well. Marvin Harrison was undeniable in his greatness, even though it was back about the days I was born. Yeah. And then Seth was still a thought at that point. And yeah, you wind up with Mark Ingram, who, while he was very good, he was followed up by a series of guys who were just as good as him. In college, it was the Alabama machine. No one could stop them. They had the best offensive line in the world year after year after year. He is most memorable in college football for standing next to Derrick Henry at the 50-yard line and looking like a child. So I would say leave Mark Ingram off the ballot.
What do you think, Eric?
10 of 10. No notes. I could not agree more wholeheartedly with Steve Lawson.
Really?
This is precisely the thought process and logic that I had in terms of approaching this question, right? Like we talk about Mark Ingram, who had a phenomenal season in that 2009 campaign where he won the Heisman, but he is shining on an all-star team, and there are plenty of elite runners that came before him and that came after him in this very same program, where the other guys that we talked about are all guys that had individual moments or individual snapshots of greatness that was prolific. It broke through the noise. They absolutely established themselves as the guy that put the team on their back and brought them to whatever new height that they hadn't been to before. So, maybe it's unfair to Mark Ingram because he can't really help that the team around him was that good. But when we're talking about guys that, take fairly middling programs, to put it nicely, and bring them into the conversation and create so many memorable moments that stand the test of time, that's a pretty clear line of demarcation in terms of haves and have-nots on this list.
I thought this would be a clean sweep and not in the direction of Mark Ingram, honestly, because how I went about this is I went with, like, who can you not tell the story of college football without? And while I love Marvin Harrison, he played in a conference in the Big East that's now defunct for football. Also, in the 3 years that he was a starter, they're never able to get past Miami or Va-Tech in that Big East. And you can't say the same about Cam Newton, whose Iron Bowl came back, as it would become to known, could be a page itself. RG3, Ingram, both could at least be a paragraph. Ingram helped lead Bama back. This was before Bama was Bama, guys. This was when Saban was initially leading them back to promise. And with RG3 providing one of the most shocking seasons ever, he's obviously in this conversation too. I think Marvin Harrison is the easy cut here, and our guy Mark Ingram catching unnecessary strays. I mean, this guy, absolute killer back in the turn of the century or the decade there.
Yeah, but he was good. Don't get me wrong, but everyone was good. Everyone was good on that team, and you can't distinguish him from the others. Syracuse has never had a player like Marvin Harrison play the wide receiver position before or since. Baylor
Trevor Pena was pretty good last year. He crossed the grand.
RG3 was a 1 of 1 at Baylor. Baylor was put on the map because of RG3, and Cam Newton, no one. He may be the greatest college football quarterback ever in terms of that one season. It was so good. I mean, you can write the story of college football without Mark Ingram, because you could write the story of Alabama without Mark Ingram, because there were so many better running backs that came.
Yeah. To be fair, I do think it's a decision between Mark Ingram and Marvin Harrison. I enjoy being alive too much to talk any mess on Marvin Harrison
Yeah.
Sr. Phenomenal college
True.
player. Maybe the greatest. It's a travesty that he's only getting in now, honestly.
That is true.
Yeah, understandable. Well, guys, great conversation overall tonight. Very funny show. Appreciate everyone who's rode with us along this far. That is going to do it for us tonight on the In Between Fantasy Football podcast. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy this type of content. Also, subscribe to the channel if you're new. We've got NFL, fantasy football, and betting, college football betting, NASCAR betting, PGA betting, and some entertainment betting for you as well. All to help you cash more and enjoy the ride along the way. Be sure to check out inbetweenmedia.com for some written content and upcoming live events, including Draft Night Out at the 2025 Fantasy Football Expo. For Eric Romoff, Steve Lawson, and Kyle Scott, glad to have you back, buddy. I'm Seth Woolcock. Thanks for watching, and keep it in between until next time, y'all.